I've never heard my surname pronounced correctly in the Dutch way. I think we probably need to get a clicker.
Yeah.
Am I driving?
Yeah, I think that's better.
So, to just quickly set the scene, this week we've heard a lot about WDM. Earlier this week there was a WDM training session. Yesterday we heard Mark Tinker talk about you built your first WDM network, what you're going to do with it. So what we thought is we talk a bit about what can you do with WDM, how to make it more accessible, and where do we see the market going. So let's use enterprise for a case study, but this could also apply to a regional service provider or a small ISP. So enterprise connectivity is growing. That is a reality, right? We are typically seeing that 1G and 10G services are becoming more a inter-branch application. And data center interconnects are going to 100G, 400G type of service sets. This is predominantly cloud adoption. CTOs don't want to buy expensive equipment anymore for compute. They'd rather have their data lake sit in their in their data centers, and then quickly shift it off to a co-location data center for compute, inference, modeling, whatever type of applications they need. Pull it back when it's done, and then kick off the Azure platforms or whatever they've used. Traditional lit services, like most enterprises buy, scale too slow. It takes about a few weeks to get a quote out, and then after that quote, it takes about another few weeks just to get the service lit or expanded. The challenge for dark fiber operators and FNOs is, although we've got a lot of accessibility to fiber in South Africa, fiber is finite. So at some point we have to retrench, redig, and everybody knows what a pain that is. I think there are people in the room that recently just laid their own fiber, and they know how much pain that is. It's your slide. Oh no, it's mine. Yeah, so just quickly, what is data center interconnect? So data center interconnect is an optical DWDM network. It's typically seen between two nodes, so data center A, which is typically on-prem, could be any co-location data center as well, and data center B, which could be a different co-location data center or your other node. It consists out of an optical line system or open line system. That is the spectrum portion of it all. Then either coherent pluggable optics, typically like you see everybody showcasing. These are WDM optics, so they are not your typical 1310 grey optics as we call them, or transponders, muxponders in the cases where you run stuff like SAN traffic, a fiber channel, InfiniBand, and so forth.
Now the question is, you're going to ask, why would you want a DCI connectivity? And what we've seen in the market is not only in South Africa, but I've seen it in Africa as well, is there's more and more requirement from, you'll have enterprises that want to shift data from one data center to another data center. Now, you can go and quickly lit up a service, or you can go and ask a service provider to lit up a service, but your requirement just becomes exponentially higher, as Byren mentioned early on. And we've had previous speakers as well. There's more and more requirement for more data, and more data is being shifted between two data centers. And this is why it's important to have that connectivity. Because, I mean, your 10 gig, let's say the old 10 gig is now your new 100 gig. And that's why it's quite important to look into DCI connectivity.
Yeah, I mean, application success these days, purely, it's not just the data centers, it's really the connectivity you can get through there, right? How quick can I scale the connectivity? What kind of connectivity can I scale to? So, a typical DCI characteristic, just to paint the scene where we see this or where this is typically used, it's done for business continuity, so geographical redundancy in many cases, real-time data backup. We are seeing site interconnects for finance. You'll see a lot of, well, you'll hope all your banks are replicating your data quite well. And then government, in cases like, let's use our automatic biometric identification system or our population register, that has to be geographically put between 2 data centers. Healthcare, for compute learning, and these days just to analyze and assess X-ray data, sonar data, and all those kind of things.
Just to add to that, your cloud service providers as well.
Yeah, cloud service providers. I heard someone say today about your TikTok videos and Instagrams and all that. So those guys are shifting data at mass between data centers. They typically called hyperscalers. So they do no small connectivity, anything from 800 gig up till about 19 terabit in some cases. So when it comes to data centers, there are different operational models, right? The one we're talking about, it's probably the worst acronym ever dealt with in the industry. It's called a MOFN or MOFN, depending on what your accent is. So it's short for Managed Optical Fiber Network. And then you get leased services. So typically, what most of the people in the room are doing is you're buying a lit service from someone else, and they probably would have a WDM network in the back end doing all that. Or DIY, where you or the enterprise would build it themselves, or you as a regional service provider would build it yourself. The demands vary from customer to customer, right? Small to medium scale, typically, what we're seeing for data center in South Africa and globally in EMEA is it's under 100 kilometers. It's always confined within a metro, very rarely long haul. It is a mix of Ethernet, SAN, mainframe, and InfiniBand. Your protection and redundancy, so there's always a requirement for alternate paths. Quick switch over, so protection switch over, typically sub 50 milliseconds. There is more and more requirement for encryption. And when I speak about encryption, in this case, we're talking about OTU-based encryption, which is layer 1 encryption. So low latency, high capacity encryption. So your typical, if you look at IPsec adds a few milliseconds with, well, the latency is sometimes a second with latency on top. OTU-based encryption is sub millisecond encryption.
Okay, so what is MOFN and why is there a requirement, or why do we believe there's a gap in the market for that? So managed optical fiber networks. So let's say, for example, you are an enterprise customer, right? And you need a data connectivity. Now have multiple 10 gigs, you've leased 10 gigs from a service provider, but now you see what your requirements going up, and it's going exponentially up because of various requirements. Now, so you've got a couple of options. You can either go to a service provider as an enterprise and say, I want more 10 gig services, or I want a 100 gig service, or I want a dark fiber. Now, as Byren said, now, that takes time. So I have to acquire, get a quote. Some enterprise customers has to do like a RFP or RFQ. So that takes time. So you can go and say, okay, fine, let's go to a service provider, we ask for dark fiber. Now you get a dark fiber. It's like, okay, fine, what do I do with this dark fiber? Okay, now I need WDM kit. Okay, who's got WDM expertise in the house? Let's think about that. So if you listen to what Yolandi also said, and I think there's a lot of people in this industry that would identify that resources and skills is quite limited or is reducing at the moment. So this is where a managed optical fiber network comes in. You can go to that specific enterprise customer as a service provider and say, okay, I will give you a service, a managed optical fiber network service, which I will give you point-to-point. You can decide either 10 gig service, 100 gig service, in some cases 200 gig service, and you can have a decision either as a service provider, you can sell this as a service, you own the equipment, and you manage that link for them. Obviously, you can connect it to a SLA, or the customer can go, and Byren will go into that a little bit, I think in the next slide, where the customer, which is your enterprise customer, can purchase the kit, but you manage that for him. So it's where you as a service provider can basically monetize your existing infrastructure. You've got the infrastructure, you've got the license, you've got everything, so why not monetize it? And you can give the flexibility back towards the enterprise customer. And I want to touch base on what Mark said yesterday. There was a question to Mark, said, why would you want to build your own fiber network? Well, number one, as a customer, you want flexibility, you want agility, and you want also control. So with this type of model, you will have all of that. You can decide what traffic you want to run between point A and point B, the capacity, and you've got the control. And you don't have to worry about, oh, I don't have the expertise. You've got an SLA assigned to that service. It's an OpEx cost on your side, and it's managed by somebody else.
Yeah, just a quick show of hands, right? Who has bought dark fiber in this room? Okay, who's bought the lit service in this room? So all of us have deployed pieces of this for years, right? Where everybody's either had dark fiber with great interfaces on it, or you've bought a lit service. So all we're doing is we're taking familiar concepts and we're just repackaging it to make it more agile and better consumable for the market. So morphing characteristics. So general, it's an optical fiber network provided as a service. So you get your fiber, you get your optical line system, optional transponders if you rather use IP over WDM type of pluggables, your 100 gig ZRs or 400 gig ZRs. What's coming is quite interesting. We're already talking about 800 gig and 1.6 terabit pluggables on routers, which will be commercially available. Yes, about 1.6 terabit pluggables will be commercially available Q3 next year throughout the market. So that's what's coming. So the consumption models are different. Brett quickly touched on it. Either the customer purchases the equipment and he leases the fiber, and then he reaches out to an integrator for the servicing of it. So they've got the skill set. Or it could be a co-investment. 50% of the hardware is bought up front. The other 50% is financed and attached to a services model with a service provider. And from there on, you can either have it as a network as a service, where you as the ISP sell this to your customer as an outright service where they pay you a monthly cost to it. They get all the benefits without having to worry about skill sets, because like Brett said, optical skill sets in the industry is in general are low. Optical skill sets are even worse. They are so rare that if you get them, you keep them and you put them in cotton wool every day and you tell them nice bedtime stories so they don't have nightmares and want to run away.
And it comes with a price tag.
Yeah, it comes at a price tag. And some of them need neon lighting, not direct light.
Yeah.
The additional features, obviously, for business continuity, you've got the ability to run storage area networks on the same fiber that you're running 100 gig E or 40 gig E, or whatever you're running, 400 gig E and so forth.
Just to touch back, to add on what Byron said, I mean, you've got the solutions. I mean, you can package this in such different ways. I mean, you can, depending what, every customer's got different needs, right? So you can go and sit down with the customer and say, okay, what exactly do you want to do? What do you want to transport from point A to point B? Then what is your skill set? How do you want to do this? Do you want it as a CapEx, half OpEx? Do you want it as a pure OpEx model? So there's a lot of different ways you can package this, and you can basically monetize this as a service provider. And you can tailor-make this towards each customer's specific needs. And I mean, like Byron said, you can that specific customer can run different services, SAN services, Ethernet services, fiber channel services, whatever. So yeah.
Yes, it is. It comes down to DIY versus Muffin, right? So, if you DIY build as an enterprise or even a regional service provider or small ISP, it is full ownership of the equipment. So guess who has to go find the money to buy WDM kit? You. WDM kit, unfortunately, comes with a bit of a price tag. So ROI becomes a bit tough. Direct control and full visibility, yes, so you control it, which means you control it, so you have to have the skill sets. Your operations, you have to not just have one optical engineer, you're going to have two, because they're going to have to be running in shifts. As Fibre is always a moving target, stuff happens to it, right? You have to keep track of regulations. Many people in the room, or many enterprises, if they would be your customers, or don't they have the regulatory requirements, or don't have the regulatory capability to actually light WDM themselves. So licensing becomes an issue for enterprises, or in some cases, some service providers. So you need to partner to get that benefit. And then you have to then start vetting. So it's integration between the routers, the pluggables, the WDM system. It is managing all that. So when it comes to Muffin,
As you go to Muffin, then basically you as a service provider, yeah, a lot of people don't like that acronym, but yeah, let's move on swiftly. So if you look at Muffin, I mean, you as a service provider, majority of the service providers already got the infrastructure, they've got the skills. So it just makes more sense to basically sell that as a service where you've already, majority of the people's already got the knock, or you've, let's say, can partner with a system integrator that may have a knock or may have the skills. So coming back to that, like I said again, operationally, it makes much more sense for you as a service provider to own that equipment, sell the whole service as a OPEX model, or you can sell it as a CAPEX model. I mean, you can still go to the customer and say, okay, fine, you buy the kit, I'll manage it for you. So it's a CAPEX and an OPEX. Or you can just basically sell it, like I said, as a full OPEX model. It's just like okay, we buy the kit, we implement it, we manage it, we service it, 24/7 monitoring, and basically sell it as a service. And then you basically you're taking care of everything end to end. I think that basically comes to the next slide. Why Muffin? I think, from all what we just discussed, me and Byron, there's a lot of advantages. And there's a lot of, for me, example, if I look at from any service provider's point of view, you've got everything. You've got the infrastructure, you've got the skill set, you got the license to sell. So why not monetize on that? Monetize on that and basically provide agility towards your customer. And yeah, that's, I think, in a nutshell.
It's a nice little high-value revenue stream, right? Because Jock mentioned it very well today, is if you just sell pipes to your end users or your small-scale business users, business is not going to function like that. If you're just selling a piece of dark fiber to your subscriber and lighting it, that's just what's going to happen. With Muffin, you get the benefit of giving them a highly scalable, quickly scalable system. You have ownership in that customer because his traffic is on that equipment and it's financed, it's in a contract. You can quickly scale, like I said. So it's scaling on WDM is how quickly can I get a plug purchase order and how quickly can I get the plug out of the store onto the router. That's just how quick it should be. Then, for a service provider, that is a nice little underlying benefit. And then for the enterprise and cloud operators and even small businesses, it's, yet again, fast deployment. I need to quickly upload data to the cloud or quickly replicate data. Don't have to take 3 months to go through a cycle. I already have the fiber there. I just need to light the new wavelength. The expansion into new markets is easy. In many cases, when a WDM is required by a data center or an enterprise, they go out to tenders. It becomes a product selection. It becomes a whole story. Muffin is a service-based OPEX product. So if you've got an existing services contract with that customer, it's an addendum to that service offering. So you can quickly get into that market or that customer without having to go through the whole palaver of a tender. And then at the end of the day, like we said, resources are far and few between, and not all enterprises have the ability or the OPEX in their budget to now deal with the HR and the cost to company of two transmission engineers.
And if I can just add to that, I mean, if you look at the benefits from an enterprise customer point of view, let's say, for example, the enterprise customer realizes that, let's say, for example, a big, one of our superstores, I'm going to name it, let's say, for example, a Macro or a Woolworths or whatever the case may be. They realize, but hang on, their data centers pipe is becoming quite full because of the SAN traffic. They want to add more. Now they're actually going to have to secure more budget to lease another 10 gig or lease 100 gig. If they, let's say, go with this model, it's an OPEX model, they secured the budget. Now they realize, but hang on, my 10 gig is not enough, I need 100 gig, or I want to push more traffic through, or I want to launch, let's say, a product that's going to push my traffic between our data centers, then it's done. They don't have to go back to management, secure budget, and then reapply and ask again and go through the whole rigmarole. So time to market, to launch products and to manage their own network traffic is much faster. So from an enterprise point of view, you can paint the picture and it's much more lucrative for them. That's my point of view.
And I think we behaved on time.
Yeah.
So any questions?
We knew we're standing between us and beers. So.
Any questions? None.
Well, we are here still afterwards and tomorrow.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.